So Foucault gives the example of sexuality as being regulated by people themselves. If you think about the issues that surrounded, especially like gay sexuality back in the 1980s, people were so worked up because the media was pumped full of this fear about AIDS during the 80s, and there was an AIDS crisis, but it's because people didn't talk about it before, because homosexuality was so repressed by every other era that came before the 80s, before it was widely discussed. So although the government released lots of adverts and the media was talking about it in news and popular culture, beware of the AIDS disease, beware of the gay, I think it was the gay disease. People were very careful to do that themselves because there was such a panic about it. So it doesn't need to be then, if you're pumped full of, remember Michael Moore said fear and consumerism, if you're pumped full of that every single day, these conversations about your identity and who you are doesn't need to come from the outside. It's not a communist dictatorship like in China or in Russia, where everyone has the same pair of shoes, everyone eats the same thing, everyone works in the same place, everyone has the same haircut. It's not imposed on us from outside, it's actually we do it ourselves. And because we live in a capitalist and consumerism based society, we are subliminally being directed to pick and choose things for our lifestyle, but actually we do that ourselves. You could argue that basically it's the same thing. Okay, we're still being manipulated to engage in activities and lifestyles that are presented to us by the media and also by institutions. You could say, how different are we really from a dictatorship society if you've got a few media institutions, for example, who control a lot of the media industry? Their values and ideologies are being pumped into our systems all the time, and we're just carrying it on. So remember all that stuff from year 12, media ownership, how media ownership affects values and ideologies in media text. Okay, go back to that triangle. So he's saying, but actually, if it is constructed from within, if our world is constructed by us, then there is an opportunity, there is a chance for us to resist these messages that are being imposed on us from outside. So I've highlighted some things here and put a little note just to ignore it. There are some things that aren't relevant to reading at the moment. So here he goes to talk about earlier. He was linked kind of towards Marxism, generally seeing power as something held by the dominant class, the owners of the production. So in our case, in the media, it'd be someone who has a lot of power over one institution. So they will have lots of fingers in lots of different pies, but it'll be a very small group of people who hold that much power, which we've spoken about before. But he's saying here that power is something that's actually exercised within interactions, and it's fluid. So power can be transferred from one person to the other. And then in that situation, situations can be resisted and changed. So very similar to Fisk. Okay, so now he's starting to lean more towards Fisk. He's saying, well, actually, it's not the big bad wolf and Little Red Riding Hood. Actually, Little Red Riding Hood's got a gun and now she can fight back against the big bad wolf. So if that's the case, then actually there is a chance for positive resistance and change being able to happen in society and in the media.